I'm going to talk today about what I'm getting out of developing unscripted speaking like this. Some ways of how I'm going about doing it, and places I think this is valuable. And again, because you can't avoid it, how this might be affected by AI. I'm going to do a lot more focused on the actual practice here. So we're going to take longer pauses. This could make this more of an actual drill than anything that could be interesting. But since only 2 people are watching this anyway, I feel safe taking that risk. So the first thing I want to do is this. You know the topic. All right, everybody. Today we're going to talk about bullet points and how speaking without a script can make a huge impact. No, we're not fucking doing that today. Practicing more of a range of tones, I think, is going to be a foundational part of this scriptless speaking skill that I've been neglecting. I get the feeling that having that tone first is going to completely change every other decision that comes downstream. And you can't be making these decisions consciously because you're too busy talking about the topic. So today, intentionally, a lot more focused on more conversational, the podcast tone. I've been listening to Tim Kearney's, The Fiction Writer's Toolbook podcast. And it's really good, but I'm paying attention to what he's actually doing now and seeing more than before I started this practice myself. And the tone, it's very slow, that we're going to take a long time and enjoy it. That tone is death in a YouTube video. So I've been training myself really hard to be the polar opposite of that. But just like everything, beginner level is having one way that you think is best and trying to put that everywhere. The master is the one who realizes that you need to adapt the right tool for the different situations to truly be highly effective. So I'm switching to this tone, which I've really avoided a lot. Yeah, I like that. So a little more slow, a lot more pausing. Getting into what I've actually been doing with this, between listening to his podcast, I put out a video on my main channel, finally again. Got burned pretty bad by the last one. We're trying this again. And I noticed that I spent a ton of time struggling with the bullet point delivery in the body of the sections. If you remember, I'm doing what are called level 2 scripts. So each segment, I have a setup that's scripted, and I have a payoff that's scripted. So I have a start and a destination. That's great. But then the in between, I'm working on having that being improv, unscripted. It sounds so much more human, so much more natural. There's definitely things I lose in that. Less quality, not as brief, but that humanity I gain is so powerful. I want that. I feel like of all the ways people could win, that would be the way that would work for me. Plus, it also trains the skill of being able to unscripted speak, which you can't get without practice. I desperately want this. I think it's really valuable and useful in a lot of places. So now we come to the main enchilada. Today I am going to actively challenge everything that I've been saying about speaking, that the way you say it is so important. It's even more important than what you say. And having vocal variety and all of this, we're going to just take a look at that of, hey, what if that's not true? What if I was wrong? This is the silver lining of things actually just not working out lately. I can take a step back now that I'm looking for what would be a good solution, what would be a good topic or product, without having the restriction of it have to fit into this box. I'll be like, okay, so what is the truth? I might find out that this was right, but you can't really know until you ever take a chance to think, what if I'm freaking wrong? Let's examine that. The biggest one we're looking at today, the big assumption today, is that it's a great skill to learn. It should be taught. That all my studying has given me something valuable instead of just brute force practicing until you figure it out on your own. Because, as we said, Charlie Hooper, charisma on command, he's never taken any formal training. Brute force, record something, make a video. Maybe he watches it, maybe he doesn't. But just through the sheer number of hours he has put in, he's gotten really good. Listening to Tim Kearney's podcast, same thing. I don't think he's ever had formal training. And man, he's a great speaker. Everything about it sounds wrong to me. The tone is super laid back and chill. That's the opposite of what my brain knows to do. And his training, nothing formal. Just lots of hours of years of practice, which it goes against everything else I believe. So, what if they're right? What if I'm wrong? Let's look into that. My gut tells me that it's the same answer as always, that you need everything. That the formal training and this brute force experience give you different skills. There might be some overlap some places, but I think they're going to give you different types of speaking skills. And possibly learning both of them will make me really good. Another thing that's possible, well, no, actually not possible, guaranteed, is the things I've learned, the things that these teachers have taught me are the things that are easy to teach. There's an enormous difference between what is effective and what's easy to teach. I've run into that so many things I've worked on because I'm constantly trying to build a product where I teach something. I love seeing humanity having more abilities. And the slap in the face I'm getting every single time is the number one thing I want to teach. The number one thing that I know will make you the most improve. No one wants to learn. So, it's freaking swimming up a waterfall trying to sell it and try to even get enough interest for free that I can get information about my market to refine it. It's just dead silence, and you can't learn from dead silence. So this is absolutely true and absolutely very, very relevant. So switching from the salesman chair to the student chair, like, okay, if this is true, what should I do with that knowledge to learn and get even better? All right. You should have your bucket of, here's the stuff that everyone's selling and teaching. And you should also keep that mystery bucket of things that no one is selling because either they can't teach it or just can't be packaged. And make sure you do that too. It's starting to look like speakers fall into two separate categories. People who just study and learn and they get these showmanship things, and people who just get it through brute effort. And I'm going to start paying attention to the differences between the two now. I don't have the answers, but again, this is getting meta already. The best lesson from all this is the one that's not going to be useful to you. The whole idea of just find good questions, because that opens your eyes and you start learning like crazy and learning the right things, because you can see what's actually happening in good quality content and bad quality content. Like I was talking that I now see more in Tim's podcast than I did even a week ago. Can you sell that? Here's my course on how to ask questions. Fuck no. But this is what works. Next thing, see, there's another big point I wanted to cover, and we're going to try to take this slow. When you're practicing violin, you have to learn it at a slower speed than you would perform it for an audience in order to learn the fastest. So right now, I'm back in the amateur chair, so slow. with the bullet points I was working on in my last video, I noticed that there's a lot of struggle in what you're trying to accomplish with those bullet points, what you're trying to say. And I think that it's probably actually the function of unscripted speaking is split into multiple tasks. And I was trying to accomplish them all at once. What we want to have happen is you sit down in front of a camera, press record, and I give a great, from the start to destination, explanation of a topic. Relevant, stakes, and going down a clear path without detours. But this unscripted speaking also needs to help you figure out what you're talking about. And trying to separate one from the other, or do one, or try to do them both all at once, it's too big of a lift for me right now. I would like to start splitting these into a completely boring for me, for everyone except for me, talking to figure out what I want to say section, and then the actual stating it in the clearest way from A to Z. Now, unfortunately, guess which happens first? The most boring part. In the beginning, you just can't be putting the boring part in. That's what kills everything. So I'm gonna lean into this. Sorry, this is the junk drawer, and I know this actively makes this garbage, but this would be the best way to learn. If anyone stumbles through this, maybe that will be the key for you to learn this too. So probably just practice one more minute of that and then get onto a focused statement. The harshest thing was when I did my transition from my intro in the video to the first segment. I listened to what I had edited together after I recorded it and turned off all the equipment. I stated the main thesis 3 times in a row. Yeah, like you need to have communication skills. You need to create clarity. So you need to create clarity. So who is it that creates clarity? Like all in a freaking row. And the fact that I didn't see that as I was saying it frightens me, man. Like I should be fucking better than that. Jesus. So much of this is learning how to do this on the fly. There's a lot of thinking to do. I believe there's certain key signposts that at first you don't know, and you stumble upon them and it's a complete mess. Then next, you know to look for them. And they're kind of zooming past you, but you're at least looking for them and you say, oh fuck, it's too late to do anything, but I saw it. And then third, you get to the point where it's, I see it coming and now I can steer the road on that on-ramp. One is gonna be this repetitive thing. Another I notice a lot is the rambling, because you're talking about other details that aren't related to your theme. And third, okay, this is where I really wanted to get to. The emotional burn down. We'll need to get a better term for this. But if you have a point, I'll give the concrete example. I talked to the main section where I go, speaking for engineers is hard for us to learn. But because I'm so obsessed with communication skills, I've learned all these things that can show us how we can learn it. And when I go off on, but I'm really obsessive with it, that's a dangerous detour, but an essential one. So there's this emotional component there where it gives stakes of, hey, trust me on this. Trust me on this path because I really spent a lot of time on it. Okay, now we're back to how you actually do it. If my original one of that was about 3 lines and it felt, wait, what is this bullshit? This guy's just telling a story about how cool he thinks he is. This feels slimy and weird and you're losing my time. I even forgot what we're talking about. But shorting that down into a single sentence completely changed the vibe to, okay, I still feel like we were talking about learning how to learning how to keep my job. And this is simply a one step on that path, a prerequisite. There's something to it, but emotionally it feels like this is needed. This is a needed suspension or needed breath and then we're on to it. The difference between taking your breath or versus we went onto a different road and fuck, I'm not going to wait for you to drive back to the road I want to be on. So things like that, getting a sense for how long these are taking or like how far you've gone from your main point, these will be just an emotional sense that will build up once you know to look for it while you're talking. Okay, while you're talking. That's a pretty good thesis. Let's get some practice in with the questions. Now, for our AI friends, I have been hammering the fuck out of this thing to get this to work. You remember this has been the problem every single time. We have a glorious UI built on a client-host split engine across a HTTP API, and it's more stable because of all the extra crap. But what does that matter to you? It matters to you because when I hit this button, it should frickin' actually do something.
How do some people speak clearly for 20 minutes with no script, while I lose my train of thought after 2 sentences?
Okay, let's alter the studio mix here. But one more time, buddy.
How do some people speak clearly for 20 minutes with no script, while I lose my train of thought after 2 sentences?
It's a muscle that gets built. You can do it too. You'll do it faster if you lift the weight that's at your limit instead of trying to lift the entire house at once. I'm there. I am not able to speak 20 minutes eloquently with no script. But this is something that we have Lego blocks you can build. I would say one stage you'd go through is first just getting the whole setup payoff framework. I listened to the first things that I recorded when I bought this microphone over here. So serious about this that I actually put money into it. And bro, I did not have a destination I was planning on ending up with. It was, I think intelligence creates a primal fear in people. It's like, okay, that's an interesting start. You yacked about it for about 5 minutes. Who cares and why? And I never even asked that question. That never mattered to me. I was just the science nerd that wanted to dick around with, isn't that interesting? We won't have time to enumerate them all, but that's your starting point. There's things so fundamental like that you just have to get the basics most things going to be able to speak 30 seconds without a script. And most people never even think of that. I was actively looking, still didn't even see that. And then you build up to the bigger ones. You start getting into frameworks. To prepare for this, I was looking up, what's the ACE framework again? And I forgot once again, but it's that's a completely different page. It's action, consequence, and experience. Like, okay. You could figure that on the fly to do that, and then eventually it becomes effortless. You forget that even happens. You're just thinking, I see an arc that would curve through. So then you can use that as a Lego block on the next layer. The amount of things you're doing in just one thought get larger and larger as you do this, until eventually it's, okay, that's my topic. One thought. That one thought is 20 minutes big, which is freaking fantastic. So you can do it, and the most essential thing to get there is the old small pots thing. We keep talking about that, and it never stops being even more true than we thought it was. Don't try to make a 20-minute speech. Try to make a 1-minute speech. I've been practicing having my phone out in front of me and just speaking on one thing for 1 minute and try to be start, middle, end with a clear destination. And that's really good practice. You get so many reps in, it feels right. Again, it feels like you're lifting the next heaviest thing for you at the gym. When it's time for 5 minutes, go on for that. Go on to 7, 8, and just work your way up, and you'll work way faster if you just forget about 20 minutes right now. So I know if you really struggle with the small pots thing, let me know. It is emotionally freaking different to ever get you to do it, even though you know you should. So if you're stuck with it, I found a solution for it. We can talk about that. Hit me up. Next one. And I got a nice next button. Look at this. Oh, Lord, this music's getting too much. I'm turning you down. There we go.
Is there a simple structure I can remember in my head so I don't ramble when I'm explaining something?
There are. Maybe we should practice the different archetypes. There's a number of structures you can use that'll be a big help to you. Now, if you pick the right one for the right situation, that'll be even better, but picking any one of them will give you a real head start on all of this. I would recommend getting a list of a couple basic frameworks. Just to give you names, so you can look them up. There's ACE, we talked about that. There's PACE, there's 3-2-1, and then there's the simple setup payoff. Just have a start and a destination. Any one of these will get you practicing really, really well. You'll learn a lot faster, and it'll enhance your ability to learn the other ones. Eventually, it becomes a Swiss Army knife, and you can just whip them out whenever you need. And like a dancer, which is a terrible metaphor because most people feel really uncomfortable dancing, it'll be instinctual of when to pull one out and when to switch to the other one. I will say, rambling has many causes, so there's many solutions you'll need for it, and frameworks will help. The most important thing is getting clear on the emotions of a why of a specific person you're talking to. A lot of rambling comes from wanting to explain everything, all of the connections on this topic that you care about so much that you're talking about it. But it's too many things. People want a single path, which means cutting off all of these connections to stick with one path, A to Z. And that's impossible to do when you're trying to imagine, well, maybe the person wants to know this. Well, maybe they need this connection. But if I can think, okay, Eric, who works in accounting, who is just trying to get by in this job for 6 months until he gets his side gig going and doesn't care about a promotion, then suddenly it's concrete enough that I can condense that huge world down to a single path for Eric. Get in his head, imagine not just what he is doing, but what he feels about it. Because when you start talking, you'll have feelings. Oh, but this is so exciting. We really should talk about this. And knowing what he wants will not stand up to your feelings about what's exciting. But if you know what he feels about this, about what he's emotionally wants out of this, that you can hang on to. And you'll start to think, oh, I really want to talk about this. Oh, but I'm excited about helping Eric live his dream that he's just got Michael Jordan syndrome over. That'll work. That'll keep you from rambling. That'll get you through.
How do I stop repeating the same words and filler phrases when I'm thinking out loud?
That's a good one. I love that you're asking the right question. removing these filler phrases is the biggest thing you can do to improve how eloquent and authoritative and even approachable you sound. It's the biggest lever. I love it. It's literally the thing that first made me start enjoying hearing my videos. And you're on the right part of it too. You're not saying just get rid of filler, filler words like you're talking about repeated words. When you're repeating words, it makes you sound uncertain, like you're not really speaking, you're just saying words to make noise, and people check out. So what you can do is tackle this from two sides. One, start getting more comfortable with pausing. If you are able to stop, people instinctively pay attention to see what the heck's going on. It feels terrifying to you, so it's a hard skill to build at first. People don't do this naturally. But to others, it sounds like you're thinking really hard. It makes them think that what you're saying next matters a lot, that you care a lot about them and what they asked you. This will naturally train you out of a lot of the repeated phrases that you use, because you're using that to buy time or make yourself feel more comfortable while you try to connect the ideas in your head. The fact is, people want you to take time to connect those ideas. So start doing that. There's other things we can do to improve this, but I'm going to leave you with one so you have a tangible thing you can just take care of. Make sure to do your pauses. Get comfortable with that. It'll make you better at 3 things, but also get rid of these guys.
When would speaking without a script actually make me more valuable at work than just writing things down?
Yeah, I would love to know. Exactly. We can't be just learning to speak without a script if it's a waste of time. So when does it actually pay off? I like the whole idea that you're focused on getting value done, not just learning skills. This person's ahead of the game compared to me already. I would like to know what your job is, because it's going to be really different depending on what you do. So let this be an example. I'm going to speak in vague generics. It's going to sound a little boring, and you're going to care less about it. And honestly, the information is going to be worse because it's not tailored to a specific person in a specific situation with a specific goal. What I can tell you, though, is there's a lot of situations that you don't get warning for. There was that scene in the movie Blackberry where some executive why is my mouth so weird? There's some executive is sick and someone else has to immediately fill in this important meeting as this life-changing event. That stuff. When that happens, your ability to speak without a script is going to be 90% of what you have. Even if they give you 15 minutes to prepare, your 15 minutes are going to be, I'm just getting real high-level bullet points. I'm going to have to fill in most of this just on the fly. And having even a baby version of that, a baby version to be able to speak for 1 minute on something, that could be the glue that gets you through all those things. It's an enormous amount of power, even with a small amount of skill. But the truth is, most of our speaking at work is improv. In your meetings, it will help. If you do your daily reports and you actually have you clearly express the point behind it and do it in the way that people actually feel, people are going to think you're more valuable. They're going to be more interested in listening to you. They'll be more interested in giving you leeway when you need extra resources or have to step on someone else's toes to get it done because they're also bought in to it mattering.
What situations in tech meetings reward clear thinking out loud instead of carefully prepared explanations?
So tech situations that reward clear thinking out loud. I like that phrase, clear thinking out loud. This is a huge deal. This is the core of the video I just made on my main channel about the number one thing you need to do if you want to still have a job in software. The primary value of software engineers is getting clarity, not building the feature. Getting through the edge cases of all the details of the current feature, the current use case, and then the final desired state, and having everything ironed out of what must happen and what decisions we need to make before we even start step one. Because we all get bit by some surprise requirement, or we did it as planned, and it turns out that makes no sense. This is actually leaving a gaping hole in the security or the entire point they made this over here, but we never thought about how it would work. At least not that little sliver. And now that's becoming the only thing we do, the most visible thing we do, and the most valuable thing we do. And that's all going to be done by speaking out loud, by thinking out loud. You can't be prepared when you walk in with the mobile engineer, the web engineer, and the cloud engineer, and the product manager to discuss the details of how this should work, because you don't have their brains. The only option we have is to walk in and think out loud. So this is going to really become one of the most critical skills, at least for software engineers, to get better at that.
As a YouTuber or educator, when is it better to speak freely instead of reading a perfectly written script?
As a YouTuber or an educator? I'm going to speak for educators first. For educators, you connect. For educators, your whole fight is to persuade people that it's worth knowing the thing that you're talking about. So in many ways, what you're doing is sales. This can be done scripted. If you ever talk to salespeople, they always talk about their sales script. But if you talk to them more deeply, they'll all say, sounding like you're using a script is the first thing that gets people to tell you to fuck off, and you don't get anywhere. So if you're an educator, being able to speak well off the top of your head is one of the biggest things that connects with your students, holds your attention on the long term. I would say you probably should strive to have a scripted start to what you're saying. You really want to have a strong why this matters. But after that point, the value of being able to feel like a human that's in there with them, trying to solve this problem, learning is hard, but you're doing it together, that'll get you a lot further. They'll stay invested. Also, the critical thing is you need to have them ask questions if you miss something, or you don't explain something well, or you explained it perfectly and they just zoned out for a second. And they won't ask you if you did everything with a script. You can feel when someone's delivering a script and you immediately feel, oh, I should shut up and not interrupt until it's over. And that's a problem. For YouTubers, I think you really have to do both. I'm not going to come out this and say, oh, you're right. My favorite toy of free speaking is essential and you have to do it instead of, nah. They're both really powerful in different situations. I would recommend that at least do 25% of one. If your channel is all scripted, every fourth video, do something unscripted. Or have like one segment each video that's unscripted. And if you're all free speaking, always just thinking out loud. I'm sure you're doing a great job of this. Do one video every 4 that has a script. Maybe it's shorter because you don't want to kill yourself on the script writing, but the two feed each other a whole lot. Whenever I do scripted, it teaches me a good pattern or a good flow or a real connection to meaning that I didn't notice before. And it becomes easier to do that on the fly next time. Just I wasn't aware of it, and I never would have become if I didn't do the scripting. And the opposite, if I'm constantly, writing scripts, there's certain connections and there's the whole sounding like a salesman and how to sound like a real person just trying to give them advice so you actually want them to succeed. And you can't really get that unless you practice speaking off the top of your head. So I'm just going to say the answer. Like, when is it better to speak freely? If you've only been doing scripts. And if you've been only speaking freely, then it's not the right time. Flip over.
If AI can write perfect scripts, why would anyone bother learning to speak without one?
So why would anyone ever learn to speak well without a script if AI can speak perfectly with one? This is like asking, why would I want to kiss my girlfriend if someone else can? Kissing your girlfriend is the fun part, okay? But we take this back to AI. How do I make money and what would be value for other people is gonna be a rough ride for a good chunk of time. What you actually enjoy and get out of life is gonna be the only certain question that has value if you answer. So not having a script to be able to talk makes every part of your life a lot more fun. Your connection with your friends get better. You get clearer on thinking what you want, what you feel, what you're gonna do. When you're hanging out with people, you have a better time. So even if it's not gonna help you at work, it's gonna be a huge deal. That's a huge, huge, huge help. Now, okay, money. Competing versus AI. There's a lot of situations where you are going to be given the last word. That's mostly what our jobs are going to be from now on, where someone sits down and goes, we have all this stuff made by AI. I'm nervous about using it blindly. I need someone to just explain that they went over the details or the path that it took to tell me that we feel confident that there's no major mistakes in there, that it's not completely driving us off a cliff. And that's going to be an improv conversation. That's going to be you speaking out loud about why you think this works, why this makes sense, why it matches your expectations. Because believe me, there's plenty of times where you have the right information and you know the right thing, but when you say it, it sounds like the truth sounds more of a lie than a lie would. And that will screw you up bad. So it'll still come in handy at work and everywhere else in life.
Does using AI for scripts make my thinking weaker when I need to explain something live?
Yeah, that's a great question of, will using AI for scripts help us or hurt us? The honest truth is, it's extremely helpful for learning how to do it yourself. That was a pleasant surprise for me. It's not just, is this going to replace all my writing? Why did I ever bother to learn to write? It's actually one of the best teachers. We keep talking about make small pots because we learn way faster from completed projects because then you can react to it. The reacting to the completed thing that's actually in use, you learn things you didn't even realize you're learning. So we want as many of those as possible at the level that you can understand. When you're a beginner, it's small things. You couldn't really understand or get much out of a giant opus, so small thing. There's better ways to do it though. I've gone through so many AI script writing things, and they have not been good for me. Maybe they just don't match the style that I like to write. But what I have found, if any tool you have, you do some of it, and then you throw into it and just ask it, what would you do with it? Try to add it. Try to improve it. Try to give feedback on it. Or whatever you were designed to be great at, do your thing for it. Takes 3 seconds. Then sit back and go, how do I feel about that? Does that feel better to me or not? Which parts do or don't? And you get some rapid input in your taste building on maybe some influences that you never see. Authors used to ride a freaking camel for years to go to someplace really different in order to just have new influences to react to. Go, I never ever would have thought of writing it like this. And now I know I hate that, and I'm gonna do even more the opposite. Or you like it and you start incorporating it in. But man, just getting those influences by AI, rapid fire, you learn so much, you develop your taste, and it's super good. It's really a huge learning tool. It's one of the best ways to start improving your thinking. So lean into it, enjoy it. Let me know what you find when you learn. So if you get time, check out my video on the main channel. It's for software engineers. But I really think that everybody should find some outlet where they can practice a whole lot of thinking out loud like this. Do it with your friends if you have a good social group. If you're more of a science introvert, build something like this. I can give you tips how to put one of these together. It's been really helpful to pull me out and get me more out. I sincerely think that an hour a week is a good amount to strive for. And I can already feel how much it's changing how I speak. Next time, I'm hoping to find a way to get out of the groove, the rut I seem to get in when I'm doing this. For all I've learned, there just seems to be a certain style or pattern that I get into. And you gotta have the ABC sections. You gotta have the verse and the chorus. You gotta have the change. So we'll look forward to that next time. See you then.